So the streets are talking, Victor.
Hey,
Get him, daddy.
don't you walk on me.
Victor, what's up, my man?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good. You do any fishing yesterday?
A little bit. Like literally just tiny little schoolies. I caught
Yeah.
like 3, and I didn't want to beat them up too bad, so
Left
just
them biting?
down this. No, I mean there was some. I didn't really have time. Didn't have time. I was busy working and things like that, like around the house. So I just popped over, like quick little lunch break to my little spot. There's usually some little decent bass over there, but right now it's kind of like my time off. Like tuna fishing just closed, and you know, that's kind of about it. But what about you? Any fishing?
No, not this weekend. No, I did eat sushi though. That was about as close I came to fishing. But
Nice.
so do you tell me a little bit about yourself? Do you tuna fish professionally? Is that your main gig?
Yeah, are we just chatting? Are we doing? Is this live?
Oh, we're in it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no. So right now I just started mating for a guy, commercially,
Okay.
which is pretty sweet. But no, I'm just a fishy dude that like really likes to fish, and I just kind of like got caught up in this tuna thing like 5 years ago.
How'd that happen?
Dude, super random. So, he's a really good friend of mine now. His name's Kev, and he just posted a story on Instagram. And like I was like Albie bass, like go to the canal down in the Cape all the time, like that kind of stuff. And then he just posted a story of just like a giant tuna he just killed, and I just texted or messaged him, and I was like, "Dude, that's so awesome." And he's like, "You want to come kill one with me tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yup." So I called out of work, and we went. And first trip, got one. And obviously been on boats and all that stuff, just never done the giant tuna thing. So like first trip out, we set baits in the water, nothing happens, move over to another spot, and like there's like a fleet, and he's explaining it to me, and he's like, "Yeah, so this fleet over here, like there's been bites going on." He's like, "I'm just gonna go in this random spot over here because it's Cape Cod Bay." And we pop over, put a pokey in the water. He's like, "You want to break out the grill?" I was like, "Sure." And then boom, rod goes tight. I'm like, "Oh my God," super cool. 45 minutes. It's still the biggest fish I've ever got. Is 111 inches and like 770 pounds. So
Wow.
pretty sweet. That'll definitely get anyone hooked,
Oh yeah. Hey everyone, this is Victor Lucia, founder of the Brooklyn Fishing Club and host of this podcast. If you've ever wanted to learn how to fish in New York City, now's the time. The fall season is heating up and the striped bass are heading our way. We've only got a few more weeks of Brooklyn Fishing Club lessons before the cold sets in. These sessions are the real deal, hands-on, local, and unforgettable. You'll learn how to cast, bait, tie knots, and read the water while fishing classic New York City spots like the East River, Rockaway, and Coney Island. If you're interested in freshwater, we can hit Prospect Park in Brooklyn or head to one of the reservoirs just north of the city. You can book a 4-hour lesson for up to 2 people. Each lesson includes tackle, bait, lunch, plus photos and videos to remember the day. Reserve your spot with just a $100 deposit at brooklynfishingclub.com under the fishing lessons section. Once the weather turns, we'll shift gears to ice fishing lessons this winter, followed by our spring open water sessions, and both are already filling up. Don't forget, BFC members get 20% off, so don't miss your chance to up your game and catch some fish with me before the season ends.
So yeah, then that the rest of that season, I was like, dude, I'm all in. Like, you ever need a hand, like whatever, pay for fuel, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah. So he was actually working for like a really well-known fishing guy, Brett Wilson, which is Hindsight Sport Fishing on Cape Cod, like super OG dude, like very talented guy. And so he was running a 33 CV, my buddy Kevin. So that was the gig. It was the commercial fishing at that time was good enough. It was paying well enough. So they weren't even doing charters. So I basically started hanging out with Kev. He was teaching me like the ropes of it. We just, doing striper fishing, hanging out, and basically, just got hooked that way. That was like my introduction to it. And then every single year, I just made sure I was on a boat or near a boat, and kind of got into it that way.
have you noticed the fishing getting better since you started doing this, or what do you think?
It's interesting because, every year is different, and I haven't been doing it long enough to like use my knowledge to answer that question, but I can, a lot of the old timers, have stories of different areas that like get good and that they're hot and they're cold and like it's like a cyclical thing. But as far as like the recreational stuff, I think it's just gotten phenomenal. There, when I first started out, there wasn't as many um wreck fish. Like, and I'm only speaking for Cape Cod right now. I fish down in Jersey sometimes and stuff like that too, but up in this area, like the wreck fishing has become phenomenal. Like as we speak right now, there's a certain area, and it doesn't matter which one of my boys it is, charter guys, like the screens are absolutely lit up, and it's obviously closed right now. But I mean the abundance of 50 to like high 70-inch fish is clearly showing in this area. So that's pretty cool. And as far as like the giant stuff goes, it's we're seeing giants pop up in areas where people 30, 40 years ago said they used to be.
Wow.
Which is cool. And then also this year in particular, can't speak for other years in the past, but this year in particular, certain areas are either slow or maybe just starting to get going, but they like these particular spots that have been traditionally, pokey set up here, herring set up here, mackerel set up here. Certain areas this year are like hot and certain areas are cold that should be hot. So it's an interesting thing, but as far as like the bluefin fishery goes and as a whole, I think it's in a pretty good state. There's plenty of fish being caught.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. What do you think you could attribute that to? Like just more bait around, the bait is better protected. I know a lot of guys have been complaining that the bunker, they've been getting targeted by fleets that aren't even from America. They're coming in and taking them out. Do you think that's been a problem?
Oh, dude, definitely. Last year we were early striper fishing. I was with a buddy who runs a charter, and we were setting up to find these fish, and we found them. And he's like, "All right, dude, like I got my charters are booked for next week. Like we're gonna go to this spot." 3 days later, we go like we're jigging bunker spoons and stuff. And I should say like the pokey schools were just like this whole area was filled, and the bass were on them. And then all of a sudden, like a bunch of like seine netters came in and just started scooping up the pogies, and it was the saddest thing in the world because we would see huge bass, like 40 inchers and stuff, and plus just getting scooped up in the nets. And like I'm trying to figure. I'm like, are they throwing them back? Are they keeping them? Like, what's happening, right? But I guess the point of that story is that area was depleted in less than a week.
Wow.
Of pogie schools. That like epic stuff, to the point where this was off like Rhode Island, like Fairhaven, Rhode Island, New Bedford area, like, and to the point where we were actually like frothing, thinking about the tuna that are going to come in when those pogie, like the giants that are going to come in when those pogie fields empty.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough bass to decimate that population, right? So I was like, dude, like early season, we may get some giants that like push in just because of the scent of these pogies, and it's going to be. We were just like already dreaming about what an epic year it was going to be based on that school of fish. They scooped them all up, gone.
Unbelievable.
And there wasn't a bass in sight, and there was like these little tiny scattered schools of pogies. Super sad. And I'm not for that at all. Like, don't care what anybody says, their opinions and things like that. Like, I'm not for it. All starts, the food cycle all starts with phytoplankton and copepods, and it works its way up. And if you want to have a balanced ecosystem and, control fisheries and things like that, you have to start with the bottom and think your way all the way up to a whale if you want this thing to work, and it's like there's so much bureaucracy and politics in this stuff, and like I don't even know like where it goes from here.
Right.
It's interesting because like you could base a lot of things like how well the tuna are doing that year, or if they even show up, if there's bait, and like it's like, you come to find out that like bait schools were taken away and like XYZ. And yeah, so it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. What do you think about these proposed regs for next year for the stripers? There's, it's on the table that they might close it entirely for a no harvest. I mean, it's crazy. What do you think of that?
Been hearing a lot of chatter about that, and like I can't form an opinion because I haven't been around long enough. Um, I grew up in a fishing community in New Hampshire on the vineyard and stuff like that. So I've heard it like all the old timers talk about the striper fisheries and things
Yeah.
like that. But everybody has a stance and an opinion, and I've heard them all, and I like a lot of them and things like that. And I agree with like commercial fishermen. I agree with rec guys. Like, I find myself somewhere in the middle, and it's hard for me to form an opinion because I particularly haven't read that much data. I haven't really looked at the science. I'm just hearing anecdotal stories from different people,
Yeah.
and things like that. But I can tell you that. So traditionally, I'm from a native tribe on Martha's Vineyard. We're the Wampanoag tribe of Aquina.
Oh, cool.
So like our stories go back like hundreds and hundreds of years, before Vikings and Europeans and all sorts of seafaring travelers. And all I can tell you is that like through our generational knowledge passed down, the entire fishery sucks compared to what it was. But that's obviously like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like the extermination of the buffalo. Like it's not good. But I think a lot of it too is like we look at like, well, things this way were, 20 years ago they were this way, or things 15 years ago were this way, 30 years ago they were this way. And everything's like so cyclical in that matter. But we also don't look at how things were like 150 years ago. There's no data, right? Or 200 years ago. It's like, man's interaction with the waters and things like that, with the technology that we have nowadays, with like boats with nets, and then all that stuff. So it all plays a major factor. And I think we're just living in a time in real time where we're all scrambling to like figure things out. Like some people don't think the stripers are, there's a problem, which I disagree with. And some people think that there's a major problem, which I understand. And I think the scales are tipped to where there's for sure a problem, like no question whatsoever.
Yeah,
And like
right.
it all goes back to that like class of fish and, the slot and everything. And I just think that was a mess. Like everything after the moratorium and like the way we're trying to figure it out, I think it's a mess. And like, once again, it's bureaucracy. And I try to stay out of that part of it because, like I said, I don't know enough. And I don't want to sit here and act like I know everything and be like, yeah, this is my opinion. And, but I do fear for the striper fishery.
Yeah. I agree. Yep.
And I hope it gets better. And it's like I said, when we started the conversation about like pogie schools and stuff, it all is together. Like it's all connected. So if the pogie schools aren't there and we're like, oh, well, this is only going to be like a catch and release fishery or this and that, like understandable. And I know they're spawning in the Chesapeake and blah, blah, blah. But if like their food source is depleted, these fish scatter. Like stripers, for millennia have gathered in these certain spots in their migration. It's like a deer going through the woods in its same natural path, right?
Yeah.
They set up on these spots and they rely on bait because bait's always been there, right? It's always been there. So now these things are trying to figure out, and they're kind of like, in my opinion, and once again, not educated enough, but they're like in a dire situation where, okay, for like this DNA for like the last 1,000 years genetically goes to like Buzzards Bay, say, like in early spring. They set up, they feed on the bogey schools and all the rivers that are emptying out of herring, and then they push in through the canal or they go around the vineyard or whatever, right? But if their bait's not there, what do those fish do? Well, they like scatter and they have to go find stuff. And, and traditionally the bait's been there. So like that's a whole nother aspect of the striper fishery that I kind of fear for,
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. If the bait isn't there, it doesn't matter what type of regs you put on the striped bass. I mean, there's not going to be any bait. There's not going to be any bass. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I know for a while, I think it was prohibited for these foreign countries to come in and net all these bunker, but I don't know. Maybe something changed. I don't know enough about the situation, but I have heard a lot of people complaining about, just like you said about that one spot, like all the bunker were there that 1 week. By the next week, they were all gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I feel like that's happening across the board in a lot of places.
And
So
it's funny, like just recapping on that, we talk about like, so we hear a lot about, stripers and genetic populations. Like they'll test them and be like, all right, like the family genome and stuff. Like, what about bait fish?
yeah,
Nobody really cares about them. But like I said, it's in my opinion, it's all connected. So like, what if you take out an entire school of bunker that's like in this one area,
yeah,
and then, there's, a couple hundred tons left of them or something like that. And like, you just hear stories. Like, remember the stories like in like Hudson and stuff, like just like you could like walk on the pogies and things like that.
yeah,
We're not going to see that stuff again. Now it's more like, now we freak out like in the Cape Cod Bay, like when there's like a tuna bite off like Plymouth, we freak out when there's like these huge pogie schools, but they're not big. I mean, you're talking about like, 100 yards of pogies or like 500 yards of pogies. Like that's big, but like not traditionally throughout time. That's very tiny,
yeah, yeah,
What you should be seeing traditionally, especially from like my oral tradition, is you should be seeing humpback whales pretty close to shore feeding on these pogies with large tuna, with large bass, with large bluefish, like it all mixed in. And that area will bounce around, right? But that's how I grew up with my stories of like how things were. And you really like, we get very lucky when we remember the years. And you're like, remember the humpbacks were on the pogies like 5 years ago, because it was
yeah.
like an untouched pogie school or like XYZ. But no, I think about stuff like that all the time.
So what tribe are you from? Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, I was born and raised in Aquina. It used to be called Gayhead on Martha's Vineyard. It's the Aquina tribe.
Interesting. Can we hear a little bit
Yeah.
about that? That's something new to me right there.
Yeah, man. It was pretty cool growing up there, like typical like latchkey 90s kid. And we basically from sunrise till sunset would just go out, catch snakes, go there's actually like on the tribal lands, there's like a little river, and the herring will run through there, and there's like native brook trout and stuff. Like it's pretty cool. So we go fool around up there and just was immersed in nature as a kid. And how would I put it? Yeah, just like always out and about with the kids I grew up with out there. Moved from there to Menepsha when I was 10, and my dad never fished. So this was like something that I grew up with that no one really taught me. I just kind of got into it. And I'd go and like just be a little dock rat in Menepsha and bring my rod and catch stripers, and I'd like hear the old timers because I was there so much. I'd hear them talk about their stories, and they'd be like, "Hey kid, come over here," like, and they would show me little tricks and different jigs that they were using, and got my education that way. And it was really cool. I wish any kid today could grow up with the same way, but times have changed. And yeah, and then I moved to Bourne, Cape Cod, Falmouth area, where I'm at now, in high school, and have been here kind of since. But just what a cool way to grow up around the different cultures that I've experienced. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Fortunate.
So
But yeah, the Aquina tribe, we go back for thousands of years, and it's a cool thing to be a part of. I really don't know how to like explain that too much more, but
yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is like this is something you knew that your family was a part of since you were a kid. It's not like you took some DNA tests and found out about it like recently. Like,
oh no, I grew up at the tribe. Oh yeah, I go all the way back to the sachems. And basically, in order to get recognized, you have to pull your lineage line. So it has to predate. Like, I think it's basically when like the first settlers came, they started taking records of like who was like tribal and things like that. So you have to be able to at least get back to that point, and generationally, and then you submit it to the federal government and they approve it, and then you get like your tribal card to to for identification purposes and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mom's side of the family goes back just crazy back. and trying to think of, so there's something called a sachem, and it would be like the medicine man, or maybe like a high chieftain position in the tribe, and that's like was really cool. And when we did the DNA, all that stuff, like it was cool to see who my relatives were, and a lot of them were like sachems and things like that. Just
Interesting.
Fun stuff to play around with and to think about, and
Yeah.
your history and stuff. Non-fishing related, obviously, but
What are some stories, like fishing related stories, that have been passed down?
so we used to go to watch the whale migration. They used to go like up the Gayhead Cliffs, the Aquina Cliffs in the Vineyard. My family, we would go and watch the right whales pass through. Like, it would be like the backside of like Chilmark and Aquina and stuff like that, and passed out to no man's land. And those have obviously depleted, but they would tell us these stories from our relatives in the distant past that we would hunt those whales and things like that when they came in close. So that was like a huge part of like their migration for the right whale, and they'd go out on these little dugout canoes and would actually hunt whales. And
That's crazy.
isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of deaths. It's actually, side note, I was reading an article about one of my cousins from, I think it was right around 1908 or something like that. It was a newspaper article out there, but he was last seen fighting a swordfish on a dory off of Menemsha. Like that's, and he just like, and they like found the dory and like never found him or the fish. It's just
God.
like, like just crazy stuff.
That's
that
crazy. It's probably
those
one
old
hell of a
timers.
swordfish. Oh my God.
Yeah, who knows what happened? I mean, it's like could have just brought him into shore and he hit a rock. You're on a dory, and like, how are they even fighting it? Like, I'm assuming it was harpoon,
Yeah.
So back in that time, but yeah, that's actually cool too. Is off Menemsha, all those harpooners. There used to be fish out there. There used to be swordfish, out behind the islands and things like that, and that was a whole industry that's gone now. But so I listen to hear those, or I'd like to go down and listen and hear the stories from those guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, we talked to them about it, and they were still old enough to be around and still have that knowledge, pass it down. But yeah, so we would have all these stories of our past, and they'd talk about the herring, that the river herring. That was such an abundant food source for us, and it was so thick that it was never a problem. Like there's never a time in our oral history where there wasn't river herring. We would smoke them. We would use the roe, all sorts of things. They would make incredible gardening, like farming fertilizers. So everybody's heard about the three sisters, which is like the squash, the corn, the peas. But you'd start with a river herring and you'd bury that in the dirt or the soil, and then you'd plant on top of that, and it would fertilize our vegetables and things like that.
That's so cool.
River herring just being so thick, and then lobsters that were huge, and you could still find spear tips in the marshes, and those spear tips were used. They're like large, and people think like, oh, that's for a deer. No, that's for a lobster. That's like, a 200-year-old lobster that's 30 pounds.
Wow.
They talk about these lobster that were absolutely enormous, but you'd be able to get them in the marshes and things like that. That's how abundant things were.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot less people and things like that. Yeah. So you could imagine what things used to be like around here.
Yeah. Are there any tribal records of giant stripers?
No, I'm just stripers. It was never something that was an issue. Bluefish stripers, those are a lot bigger things. So we'd use like weir nets to capture them. So you would, let's say there was trying to think of an area that might. So like off of an inlet, if there was a spot where bait fish were congregating and it was small enough to where you could sort of block it off. So on like the high tide when the fish came in, you could kind of block it off, and then you'd set up a weir net. So anything that you got in that little net would be your food source. It'd probably be stripers, bluefish, lobster, bait fish, whatever, that kind of thing. But there was never like a pass down of the size of fish. I don't think that was significant.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. A long time ago, I saw an old newspaper clipping from like the late 1800s, and it said that I wish I had a picture of this or proof that I even saw this, but it said they were catching stripers up to 150 pounds, and this was like, you know, over
Oh
100
my
years ago.
God.
But I mean, it's something that, you know, I can kind of believe because, you know, no pressure on them. Imagine how big they could grow with very limited pressure on them. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I do totally understand that. Well, that's the idea behind the giant tuna too, right?
Yeah.
There's still a lot of big ones around, but like to define those 1,200 pounders, 1,400 pounders, like very, very hard. We just
Yeah.
don't let them get that old. There's pressure.
Right. What do
But
you
that's
think?
very interesting about the 150-pound stripers. I didn't know that they could
Yeah.
potentially get to that size.
Yeah. You know, who knows? I mean, I've had guys on the show. I had the guy who got the world record, Greg Meyerson. You know, I think it's like a 86-pound striper or something.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yep.
crazy. Crazy. I can't even imagine that. I've seen 50s in real life, but I've never seen anything over, you know, probably 54 pounds. So I can't.
I mean,
can't imagine it.
I would just live to feel the experience of an 86-pound striper on my line.
That would be incredible, right? Oh, God.
You know,
What's
I fought like 90, 100-pound tarpon, and I could, you know, with exception of the jumping and stuff, I could only imagine the drag that thing must take off.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. So you've fished all over the place, huh? You've caught tarpon. I saw on your page you've caught some snook. You've caught a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, been mostly all up and down the East Coast, from like Costa Rica all the way up to like, you know, Canada and stuff like that. But yeah, fished all over. If it's a fish and it swims and it's fun, like that's just all I want to do, obviously. Freshwater, saltwater, it doesn't really matter. Whatever's around, if I'm somewhere and there's just a little trout stream, I'll go poke around with those guys, and I have just as much joy catching those. I'd be lying if I said I had just as much joy catching those as like a giant tuna, but it's close.
I was about to ask you.
It's
sure?
close. You know,
No,
you gotta take each moment, each fish with respect and enjoy your surroundings and things like that. So
Definitely.
it's just my thing.
Do you have any bucket list places that you're trying to get to soon?
Plenty. I'd love to get out to Venice and do the oil rigs out there.
Oh, yeah.
For
That looks
sorties
awesome.
and yellowfin. Yeah. That stuff, and what else is there? Oh, I want to get back down to Costa Rica because I want to do the rooster fish and Cubera snapper, that whole thing, but I want to do it on the kayak, and I went down.
On the kayak.
I did.
Shit.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of sailfish and kingfish, mahi, yellowfin tuna on the kayaks.
Wow, you got a sail off the yak. That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't broke double digits yet, but I think I'm at 9, or definitely not 10.
Nice, man.
Maybe 8 or 9. I have to go count my pictures.
That must be a hell of a fight. I mean, I've caught them on, you know, a sport fishing boat, and you hook them behind the boat and they're 500 yards in front of you in like 3 seconds. So I don't know how you do that on a kayak. How do you do that?
Yep. So the bait of choice would be a live goggle eye, and you run a stinger rig. So you run a little bit of wire, because there's everything out there has teeth, right? So a little bit of wire, circle hook to the nose, and then attach a treble hook to the tail. And it's only like a foot of wire that you need. And so that way that goggle eye, I go right through the nose, and then I just kind of like dangle the treble hook just a little bit in the tail. And that is specifically for kingfish and wahoo. Because we've learned through the years that as soon as we were using mono, and you just get snipped, and you'd be like, oh, that's a shark. And it's like, come to find out there's wahoo in the area, and you're like, oh, damn, like maybe that wasn't a shark. So yeah, we run the wire that way, and just toss it up behind the kayak. And we're in blue water, so you just launch at the beach. You're out in blue water. It takes about 45 minutes to pedal out there. It's been pretty close. It's over like near like Boynton Inlet, like West Palm, all those areas, and just kind of push out there. You'll start seeing bait, marking fish, 300 feet of water, and toss the goggle eye out behind you, and just scoot around maybe like 2 miles per hour. It's like a nice steady pace. We're, running Hobie kayaks, and wait for that bite. And when it goes off, man, it's like that rod just doubles over. Look behind you. You hope it's a sail. thing goes dancing out of the water. But yeah, it'll pull like maybe 100, 150 yards. You guys fight him super light drag. So maybe 15 pounds, and it takes off. And then as the fight progresses and you get it closer, tighten up in the drag a little bit. And then it's just such a cool fish.
I love them. I love wahoo too. I guess you've caught those too, right?
No, I've never
really?
caught a wahoo in my life, period. And
Wow.
I've been trying for them on the kayak for like years now, and they just elude me. I've got
Damn.
like really big, like 40-pound kingfish,
Yeah.
which, a kingfish looks like a big Spanish mackerel kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But it looks like a wahoo too, just not a wahoo.
Yeah,
But I've
right.
caught those, and those are drag screamers, man. Those are such fun fish.
They're
It's
fun,
like
man.
for a second
They
you
get
can't tell
so
if you're on a
big.
tuna. So big.
So massive. I've gone to one time. I lived in Florida. I went to a kingfish like tournament weigh-in
Nice.
in Fort Pierce, and there was like an 80-pounder, dude. It was fucking insane. I was like, oh
Wow.
my God. I thought I'd caught some big ones up to like 20, 30 pounds, but man, they get huge.
They get real big, real big. They're so cool when you're out there too. You just be like pedaling around, or even if you're in a boat and you just see them shoot out of the water, like
Yeah.
20 feet, and just like pew, like a little missile, and just back in. And you're like, what is happening out here? It's so cool.
So let me ask you this, because you fish all up and down the coast, all over. Do you, and I've asked a lot of people on my show about this, do you think that there's a shark problem up and down the coast that you've noticed? Do you think it's gotten worse?
It's definitely increased 100%.
Yeah. How about up in Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay?
Yeah, 100%. The brown sharks are a big nuisance from my experience. Like our stripers get halved pretty frequently in certain
Really?
areas. Yeah, and it's like so thick, and like I guess they're protected or whatever because they're on that list. But I'm like, how are they? There's so many, especially offshore now. When we were
Yeah.
tuna fishing, we were like jigging up sharks like a lot.
It's got to be really annoying.
Yeah, changing gear and you're just hooking a shark. You don't want to hook a shark. It's
Yeah.
not, it is annoying, but they have their place in the ecosystem for sure. But there's definitely like an overabundance of them in Florida, particularly. I have videos of like this past trying to snook fish, and I can't because I'm like, I'm not going to lose these snook to sharks. But I was kayaking, and there was like, I could show you a video, and there's probably, I don't know, 25, 30 bull sharks around me, like
It's
dorsal
crazy.
fins out, just kind of like hanging out. They pose no threat to you in the kayak.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless you're bringing a fish in and you're irresponsibly like dangling off the side, but they're not going to attack you. They kind of spook. But I'm just like taking a video. It's like a foggy morning, and there's just like shark, 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 and they're setting up the tide, and that's where the snook set up. So it's a mess.
Crazy.
Yeah, but the white sharks up here is an interesting thing on the Cape of like Monomoy, because those weren't here, 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I remember
wild.
going to Monomoy as a kid. They used to have, like you could take a little like tour out there. They take you out on a boat and drop you off for the day. And I've talked to guests on the show, and they're like, yeah, you can't do that anymore. It's just so many seals. Is that the case? It's just totally overrun, right?
Yeah, the seals are everywhere. Everywhere.
Do you see great whites
Inshore,
all the
offshore,
time?
on the beach. No, not all the time, but I took a cool video the other day of we were over near like the Cox windmill farm thing that they're setting up over there. And there's a floating pilot whale carcass, and we pull
Ooh.
up to it. I'm like, hey, look at that. I'm like, there's a dorsal fin on the other side of that carcass. We pull up to it. I'm like, that's a white shark. My buddy's like, no way. He's like, it's a blue. And I'm like, no, it's a white. Look, dude. And then all of a sudden we get real close to it, and this behemoth just comes from right underneath the boat. I got the coolest video, and it just comes from right underneath the boat. It's probably like 15, 16 feet. Dude, just so wide. And anyway, it goes back around and it's circling. But as soon as we pulled up, it didn't want to it was kind of acting weird. It didn't want to eat. And then this littler one was just chomping away. Super cool to see.
Wow.
But I don't particularly see that many white sharks. They're there, right? They're pinging all the time where the areas we're fishing, but I don't really see them as much as other people do.
So are you losing fish to seals also?
Yeah, at this time of year, albies are a problem. The seals seem to know. I think they're adapting to like when their albies are closer to the beach,
Wow.
they'll come in and they'll like wait for you to release it too. Right. So you go to release it, thing torpedoes off, and then the seal just like snatches it right up.
Jesus.
You're like, oh, cool, sweet.
Great.
Like,
Yeah.
trying to do my best for conservation here. Like this thing, just this poor fish. It was just hooked and taken into another dimension. Yeah.
And that seems to be one issue that nobody is even like, proposing a solution for, right? I mean,
The seal thing.
yeah.
How would you even, everything is, like I said, everything's bureaucracy. So like, how would you even attack that? So that way you're not attacked. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's a mammal. So at that point in time, like anybody that, especially people with good intentions, I find that those are like the worst sometimes.
Absolutely.
They're uneducated because they're not immersed in nature. And when you're not immersed in nature, you don't understand the natural way of things.
Yeah.
So you may have a kind heart, and you're well placed with that, and that's an awesome thing. But it comes with that lack of education on like how things are. And there's no question that there's a lot of seals right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there needs to be something done about that. Wait long enough and we'll just have a serious population of white sharks that will try to basically wolves on elk.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like that's the direction that's going in, right? I mean,
yeah. Nature will fight back and try to figure out a way to stabilize itself. And there will be more sharks.
More white sharks. That's what it'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll end up having a breeding ground in like 30 years. There will be a natural sanctuary for white sharks because they're protected, and it will, it's not all doom and gloom. Like who knows what that looks like, right? Like life continues to fight on. So, if nothing changes, like mark my words, in 20, 30 years, we'll have a sanctuary for white sharks out there. And, they're going to set up a breeding ground just like they do around the world. And that will be a normal thing. We'll have huge sharks and a lot of seals.
Nobody really goes swimming out there anymore, right? It's kind of.
I have never. I mean, it's the word's out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I actually have a story of a guy that I know. This is recent. They ran aground out there, and because that area it's monomoy, it's so sketchy, and like the shoals change and things like that. But they ran aground, and it was sunset, and they had to get out and push. And
oh my god,
it was a 43 center console. Okay.
What?
So they're out there and they're like nosed up and they're like, we can get it free. It's kind of rocking a little bit and calm enough. And every single one of them I talked to, they're like, we all knew that where we're stepping into, and they're like waist deep. And they're like, but we had to get this boat out, it's an over $1 million boat. And they're like, we're getting this thing out. So they ended up shifting it a little bit and getting it out and then taking off. But, and it was, I'm sure, uncomfortable feeling.
That is pretty sketchy.
Sunset, a lot of seals on the beach looking at you like, what are you doing?
Oh my god.
We're not in the water.
Yeah, right. Holy shit.
But as that tide's coming in, that boat's gonna get destroyed. So
yeah, they had no choice.
Yeah,
did the right thing. So you log a lot of hours out on the water. What's some of the craziest situations that you've been in?
Surprisingly, like I haven't really been in any like life-threatening situations on a boat. Lost power out at the canyons, we lost steering one time fishing out at the Sword, and we were tight in a tuna, and the steering bracket, like it spit in hydraulic fluid, it broke. So luckily, like this guy, well-known guy, Jimmy the Greek, fishes on the CV down here in Cape Cod. He pulled up next to us to get clients in the boat. It's like sunset. He's like, you guys need help? We're like, yeah. So we got like some zip ties and like all sorts of stuff, and got the steering column fixed, and headed back in, and we got the tuna too, headed back in. But that just like weird stuff like that, like boats always break, like I said, lost power at the canyons. We were running 3 motors, 2 of them went down. So it was a 16-hour cruise back in.
Wow.
But we made it. Everything was good, but the craziest story I have was maybe 10 years ago now. No, more than that, like 15 years ago. I was fishing Pomponesset in Mashpee on Cape Cod for stripers. And I walked out to this point and there's no one out there. It's the middle of the night. I'm fishing and it was like a terrible night. Caught like some schoolies. I'm walking back and I fell into a sinkhole and I was wearing waders. And I was up to my waders swamped, but I was up to my nipples essentially. And I was fucked, dude. And I like, okay, sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this or not. I'm a
No, it's
sailor
fine.
with my mouth.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
I threw my rod and tried to like use it to like pull me and I couldn't, dude. And then if you know that stretch, there's only one house. Like you have to walk a mile. There's only one house and then no one lives in there year round. And I was like, I have my cell phone's in my pocket. I can't get it. I'm done. And like the tide was going out, so it wasn't coming in. So I had time. And I was freaking out. And I'm like, all right, like just take a couple of deep breaths. Like, how are we going to get out of this situation? And I don't even know. I pure luck, man. I got my hands into my waders. I unbuckled them, but there's like water and sand coming in. And every time I moved, I was going deeper. So it wasn't like, oh, just kind of like shimmy and you'll get out. Every time I moved, I was like kind of getting more suctioned.
Oh my
How,
God.
dude? Oh, I have no idea how I did it, but I basically stuck my rod into the sand and like lifted up and got a little bit out. And I slipped out of my waders and I left them there. And I rolled. I was freaking out, man. I rolled up to like the dry sand because I didn't want to step. And I sat there for a second and it probably took me 20 minutes to get out. And I sat there for a second and I was like, wow, I didn't fish for a month after that, like
Wow.
at all. I was freaking out, man. And like I left my phone in my waders, like everything was down in there.
Oh,
you know,
no.
dude, I lost my plug bag. Like the only thing I had was my rod because I used it to get out and I rolled, but I didn't even, it was dark. I couldn't even figure out what was going on. And I basically, I think what saved me was I had like neoprene pants under them. So like it was able to like kind of slip out. And I walked back to my truck and I was like, oh my God, dude, I was so freaked out. And so now I just wear a wetsuit if I surf fish.
Wow.
Like not even if like I'll just put pants on or like, you know, just to
Yeah.
keep the water from, but I don't wear waders anymore.
Oh my God.
All done with those, man. Yeah.
That
After
is
that,
crazy.
if it went 12 more inches, that's my mouth and my nose and I can't hold my breath for 20 minutes.
And who knows if anybody would have even found you.
Probably a week
Jesus.
later with the
Yeah.
tide pull, you know?
Oh my God.
So that was the scariest thing ever. Like I said, didn't fish for a month and told some friends about it. And they were like, yikes, man. I was like, I know. And it's not like known to be a spot where that's an issue. I don't even know how that happened. Right.
Oh,
All I could think about
interesting.
was like maybe some kids like dug a hole there and then like the tide covered it back up. And then I stepped in the right place and there was just happened to be some suction going on or something like that. It's not like it was an area where you're clamming and like the marsh sucks you in. Like it was sand and it was a hole. And the pressure was what was keeping me in. It was very bizarre. But I felt
Dude,
fortunate too.
So lucky. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're actually the second guy I've had on the show who had close call like that. We had this guy Billy the Greek on, and he said he had a similar issue out in a tidal marsh, and yeah,
he's an OG striper guy, like one of the
Billy,
top guys.
He's a
Yep.
legend, dude.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm glad you made it, bro. That's fun. It's freaking great.
Yeah.
I'm getting
The guy I'm
anxious
commercial
just
fishing
listening
with.
to you. Oh my God.
Yeah, the guy I commercial fish tuna with right now. He's 68 and he has a similar story. He was clamming though, and he's like, dude, the same thing happened to me. He's like, I had to put my rake in. He's like, luckily there was a dad with his kid like in shouting distance, and they came over and like helped him out. And he's like, yeah, it was kind of like the end of waders for me too, man. I was like,
it.
yeah,
Oh my God.
I hear you, brother.
Somebody's got to make some type of like escape tool that you could like keep on your waders if you like fall into some shit like that. You know, like I feel like they have stuff like that for like mountain climbing. If there's like an avalanche, they have like tools. Like I don't know what
That's
it
a good
would be
idea.
though. Maybe just carry like a flare gun on you or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just-
sometimes in those situations too, you can be like maximum prepared, and you
Right.
know,
You still be
and then
screwed.
just things happen.
Yeah.
Things
I
happen.
think
and then
the most important part is probably to just remain calm. Like you said, you took some breaths and
Mhm.
you know, kind of refocused on like, you know, thank God the tide was going out. You had some time. I mean,
Yeah.
It's crazy. No more waiters after that, though.
Yeah, I'm done. So like I said, I have like a surf little thing I do, and I'll throw on like Grundon's jacket and then some boots, and then I'll go out and if I have to go waist deep, that's how I go waist deep now.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really feel like filling up with water again and doing all that, but that
No
not really
way.
too many. Everybody I fish with has all these crazy stories and encounters on boats, like hitting rocks and da da da. I don't really, fortunately, like knock on wood, I haven't had
Yeah,
any of
that's
those
good.
things.
Let's
Like,
keep it that way.
yeah, that would be awesome, right?
So what's your favorite fish to target these days? The tuna? Is that
Yeah, the tuna.
that's your obsession, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how are you guys fishing for them? Live bait?
Many ways. Right now we're fishing live bait commercial. We've been like, not to toot my own horn, but we've been absolutely just smashing them. We've got a
Nice.
tuna every commercial day since like middle of August, kind of.
That's
We just
amazing.
oh that's no, I made that up. That's not true. One day we skunked. We got 2 bites,
Ah,
and then we actually we called it an early day because a lot of like bad juju was happening, and we are like, we're out of here. So we took off. But other than that, we've got one every day, and they've all been 100 plus inches. Um, biggest one so far is 723. It was like 110 inches.
wow.
Yeah, so that's all good. But my passion right now is the bluefin tuna. Like, we're so fortunate to be um living on Cape Cod and being able to like pursue those fish at this level.
Yeah.
And like one of my good friends, his name's Riley. He actually runs it's called Dying Breed Sport Fishing off of out of Cape Cod. And he's a fish tuna whisperer, straight killer when it comes to the running gun tuna stuff. Really cool kid too. But he's been having like a good year. And when I am not doing the commercial stuff, I'll go commercial with him sometimes too. But I'll go out and we'll go jig him up and throw the poppers at him and stuff like that on his boat. And I that might be my passion, because now we're getting into like the Billy Hayes and all those guys, like they're like making that whole stand up popping game, and for giants, like they're really doing well on that whole thing, and kind of getting into that stuff as well, chasing giants on spin gear, which is sick.
Hey everyone, this is Victor Lucia, founder of the Brooklyn Fishing Club. If you've been listening for a while and want to be part of what we're building, now's the time to join the club. For just $200 a year, members get serious perks: 20% off all shop purchases, expeditions, and fishing lessons, plus a free hat and t-shirt when you sign up. You'll also get one free guided trip with me, invite-only club events, access to VIP destination adventures, and exclusive online seminars with special guests from the fishing world. It's more than a membership. It's your all-access pass to the Brooklyn Fishing Club community. Spots are limited, so head to brooklynfishingclub.com and join today. Brooklyn Fishing Club, where New York City goes fishing. That's your
Yeah, the
favorite.
tuna junkie boys, like they're like good at it. So that's like my favorite now. I just started getting into that in the last 2 years, and it's incredible.
I mean, you can't beat topwater tuna.
Yeah, even like we'll hook them on the Ron Z too on spinning gear,
yeah.
and just like, all right, boys, like we're in it now. Like, this is a 90-inch fish. Like, spirits will be broken and feelings will be hurt.
What's the biggest one you've lost that you've seen? That you've laid eyes on. Like, damn it.
Yeah, probably 100 that I've actually laid eyes on, like up next to the boat. It's like just like 105-inch, 106-inch.
And the hook just popped.
Yeah, usually it's pulled the hook and maybe chafed off, pulled the hook, something like that. But
yeah.
We were fishing the draggers last week, and the biggest fish I've ever seen to date, I saw there, and I was chumming. So if anyone doesn't know what the draggers are, I'm assuming your audience base does, but draggers, netting bait off the bottom, not bait up, like fish off the bottom, squid, fluke, whatever. So we'll pull up next to him, we'll chum, and there's always tuna behind him. So we'll chum the tuna up and get him to come over to us, and we'll throw a bait out, and bingo. And we pull up next to this thing, and I'm throwing out butterfish and mackerel, and we get the tuna to come off the dragger, and it's right behind us. And you're essentially just throwing out a piece of bait at a time, and they come right up to the boat, and and you get to watch them. So you get to look them right in the eyeballs, and they're 12 feet away, and you throw another piece of bait, and then you're so excited, and you're ready to throw your hook. You just have to make sure you're far enough away from the dragger, because all their gear, the tuna will run right into that, right? So the other day I'm throwing out a piece of bait. I see like a 90-incher come up, 105-incher come up, guesstimate. And I see this absolute behemoth that like made those fish look small, and it was purple. It was like silver and purple.
Wow.
And it came up, and I threw out a huge piece of squid, and it came up, opened its mouth. I promise you, its eyeball was on the squid, and it looked at me, and then it closed its mouth and turned and went back down. And I got to see its sickle, its tail, and I was like, that's a 120-inch fish right there.
Wow.
I was like, that is incredible. I go over 1,000 pounds. I was like, no question. And at that point in time, I got excited. So I threw out a live scup, and I went off, and I was hoping it was that fish, but that fish was too smart.
Ah.
Yeah. It got a 106 out of it, which very happy about, but
Nice.
that's the biggest tuna I've ever seen, hands down.
Dude, I'm getting so hyped.
I could exaggerate.
About that.
What's that?
I'm getting so hyped just thinking about you hand feeding that thing. That's crazy.
So the dragger bite.
Dragger.
I don't know if you want to hear about that.
Yeah,
but it's,
it sounds sick.
It's the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. My wife is sick of me talking about it, because I want to talk to somebody about it.
Talk to me about it.
Dude, it's the sickest thing I've ever done in my life. Like if something happened and I couldn't tuna fish, I'm happy that I got to experience that. It's basically pulling up to these draggers, and it's a very, I can't say too much. A lot of it's like trade craft, and I'm just fortunate enough that I got an OG teaching me this kind of stuff. So I gotta be careful about what I do say, but it's essentially, you're pulling up next to these draggers, and we're chumming these. There's tuna behind the draggers. Not every dragger has tuna, but most draggers have tuna. Think of it like a humpback whale, right? You find the whales, most likely they're killing bait, they're smashing bait around, bubble feeding. The tuna aren't stupid, and they're lazy, and they follow those humpbacks around and they slurp, right? Same concept. Draggers are just turning up all that debris field in the bottom, whether it's a scallop boat or it's a squid boat, fluke boat, whatever it be. And those tuna are so dialed in on that vessel that they know when those guys pull those lines, and when they start throwing their bait back in, and like, not the bait, I'm sorry, I keep saying bait, when they start throwing the unwanted discard back in the water, and they just come up behind those draggers and they eat. And it's the coolest thing ever. So we pull up next to them, we start throwing out some chum, we get them right next to the boat. And anybody can see like one of those videos from like Nova Scotia where like they kind of throw out a herring, and the tuna comes up, and they come to the surface, and they don't even disturb the water, and they just eat the bait, and it's like just this huge tuna. It's so cool. That's what we're doing, and throwing out individual, a mackerel, a herring, a scup, whatever, and you just get them fired up, dude, and then you just throw out. We particularly are liking to use like the live baits, but you could throw out a dead bait, butterfish, whatever, and dude, that thing bites. And so here's where the story gets cool. So when that tuna eats, you're only like 100 feet from the dragger, so guys do it different. This is what I'm doing. I'm just going max drag, maybe like a click off of max. So the boat, then we get tight, they go in the other direction. So the tuna is immediately going to run right back to the dragger. So we're doing 5 knots away from the dragger, and I'm basically at full. And you've never seen a 130 do what they do when you're doing that. It's the reel is shaking, the oil is smoking, and it makes a sound that we've all seen the videos of like a 130 going off and it's screaming, dude. It's like, it's an earthquake in that reel. And you're basically trying to stop that fish from getting wrapped in that gear. And it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's a beautiful thing. And you pull that fish out, and then you can back the drag off. And it's taught me a valuable lesson about tuna fishing, is that we could all fight these fish a lot harder on 130s. Like, dude, let me put it this way. The last like 6 tuna, the reel has been at full, and we're doing 6 knots the other way, and that reel is just screaming, and it's a 100-inch fish. And it's the coolest thing in the world from start to finish. The way you get them to eat, the way it happens, and the execution on getting that fish away from that boat. And then now you're in a tuna fight after that. Once all that stuff's done, then now you're in the tuna fight. You can back the drag off to like 30 pounds, and fight the fish essentially. And we have to use 200 mono. And every single fish that we've killed and it's come back with that 200 mono, that mono is like chafed beyond belief because it somehow got into some of the gear but didn't break off, and it's pure luck.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's the coolest. That's the coolest part of the bluefin fishery that I've experienced to date.
So, out of all the fish that you hook up with by the gear, how many of them end up in the gear that you don't get?
I only lost one so far.
Oh, okay.
These past couple of weeks,
That's
I've just
not
lost
bad,
one.
Right? Like,
no, it's not bad at all. You don't want to. I mean, you're injuring a fish, right? So like, you don't want to.
yeah,
It's a lot on that fish if it gets caught in the gear when
definitely. It's probably pretty much dead, right? I mean,
it happens so fast. So it happens all under a minute. You're going to full drag and the boat's ripping away from the dragger.
yeah,
And it's like pop. It's just now that fish has got a hook in it. You hope it's not gut hooked. You just don't want to injure the fish. That's all I'm saying. I love these creatures, so it's just like, you feel bad, but it's when I say it gets into gear, there's like cables and nets and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not stupid. It just goes in there and breaks you off. But it's a lot of pressure on that animal. But we were out there and there's plenty of boats that are getting caught up in the gear, and this isn't a skill thing that I'm not like talking myself up. It's pure luck. Like those fish came out because I got lucky.
So do you think they're instinctively going towards the gear to unhook themselves, or they're just like shooting in that direction, they get hooked and they head that way?
It's the only structure.
Yeah.
And fish run to structure when they freak out.
Yeah.
The only structure. And not only that, so we'll pull up and we'll mark like 15, 20 tuna, like all giants. And they are directly where that net is. And they're just like eating anything that pops out. And they're just staying with that boat. So that's mothership. So when we chum them up, sometimes you can pull the tuna away from that boat, but only for like a few, I say minutes, but it's faster than that. Maybe for like a minute. And they go right back to mothership. And you're only pulling like 5 or 6 tuna away. It's not the whole school. So like, and then they realize like, oh, like we're getting fed, but like something's changed and I want to go back to where the family is. So they run back over to behind the big boat, and then they get back in their group and hang out because that's the food source and that's home. They've been following those boats around for weeks.
Yeah.
So that's the mothership. So that's how it works. And, a lot of times when you hook a tuna, like a giant, the school swims with it.
Oh, interesting.
Even up until you harpoon it and its tail wrap at the side of the boat, you'll mark tuna. They swim with them. That's why when you see a guy tight, you kind of want to stop in that area. If there's a couple boats that are tight, you're probably going to go off if you put a bait out. And that's when you pull them off the dragger, that's why they go right back to their family. It's their food source. It's structure. It's protection. It's what they've been living. Their living conditions have been for the past, few weeks or however long they've been there, and they run right back into that stuff.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, they're smart fish. I think we don't understand them. The commercial fishery is interesting too because it's just full of a bunch of killers. Realistically, like just go out like stabbing tuna. Like that's just like I love all those dudes. They're awesome. But and they love tuna as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's like one of those things where like I speak about them particularly. I'm like, dude, these are such intelligent unicorns, and I love them. I hate to kill them, but I love to kill them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got
you. And I just think they're like the coolest, misunderstood fish out there. They're so cool and so intelligent. I think they have family aspects.
You wouldn't really think that, you just think of them as this big, dumb food-eating machine that just moves and eats, and that's all it does. But, I mean...
And they are that, too.
Yeah.
And that's in their nature. They can't break that. But I think they also have a high level of intelligence that we can't fully comprehend in hierarchical systems. Because one day I was out white marlin fishing south of the vineyard of south of Nantucket, and I was up in a tower, and all of a sudden I see this wave coming out of nowhere, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, what is that? so random. And then I start seeing black spots and it gets closer, gets closer. It was like 6 or 7 giants and they were swimming side by side. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. All of a sudden, the alpha takes like a V shape, makes a V shape, takes the lead, and they all kind of follow. And they're in this perfect V shape. And he's waking on the surface, sickle barely coming out. And I watch them go by. And I'm like, wow, like that is nature hierarchical positions at its finest right there. Because as it got over to the boat and it like realized we were there, they formed a V shape and started swimming like that and then went under us and then popped up on the other side. And then once they got far enough away from us, they spread back out. And I was like, these are really, really cool creatures.
That's so cool. You saw the whole wolf pack go by.
Yeah. There's like 6 or 7 of them. And I was watching it at where they came from. They came from the draggers. We were, like I said, we were white marlin fishing, but they came from the draggers and all the boats are over there and no one's getting tight. And I'm like, well, like whole school of tuna just left. That's, it's pretty cool to see.
Wow. Do you do a lot of tournament fishing? Or is it?
I've done some sailfish tournament fishing out of Florida.
Cool.
I don't do any of the tuna tournaments up here.
Okay.
But I've done a lot of the sailfish stuff down in Florida, and that's a lot of fun too. Usually, like we'll get a team together, and the one of the clients that's kind of running the show buys the boat, kind of thing, and we set up from there. And I've had a lot of fun doing those. Do the tournaments out of the Hard Rock down there. Sick.
You ever win any money?
No, I make good money like in tips because they usually take care of you, but we never won a tournament or anything like that. Not yet.
One day. Definitely one day, bro.
I'm sure. I've fished on enough fishy boats with the guys that do win to be able to pull something like that off. It would be really, really cool. But I just enjoy being out there and being part of it and learning, man. Like that's the one thing I've appreciated through all these years of fishing is like all the knowledge that I've been able to scoop up from all these like fishy cats,
What's some of the top lessons you've learned and taken away from some of these guys?
Well, different aspects, but I think some of my like top mentors, it kind of, this is like a life lesson that I've learned. Like most of my friends are older, like old. If anyone's listening, you're not old, but you know what I mean. But it like in the fishing thing, like being humble, I think is it's hard when you're young to be humble. Like, everybody's so like gung ho and out the gate, and that's cool. But just like rubbing shoulders with these like older cats, like it's like being humble and just being respectful to everybody in this game around you. And I'm sure you've experienced this in like the fishing world too. There's like such an ego. And then in relation to fishing specifically, I can speak on the tuna stuff. You're out there. It's be positive, show up to work, get it done, and check your gear. Be attentive to your baits and how you run things. And I've luckily been able to fish with some of the top, what I consider some of the top commercial bluefin guys, and they're all share this one thing. They're like very dialed in and meticulous with their gear, their baits, how they go about it. They're serious, but they're having fun. I don't know. It's real cool to see and emulate and like learn from, essentially.
So gear is one of the top priorities.
Yeah. Tackle issues should never be, should never happen, right? Like pulled hooks, you can, and chafed off on a gut hook fish, but other tackle related stuff, like you shouldn't be busting crimps. You should have your gear dialed in, know what you're doing, like all that kind of stuff as far as like what size mono to run and why, things like that. Like there should never be an issue with gear. You should have figured that out before you get out there, and taking care of bait, things like that, like ways to handle bait, bridling bait, all sorts of little intricate things. And people do stuff differently too, but for the most part, it's all in the same domain, how everybody sets up their shop, essentially.
Do you have any superstitions?
I have a lucky pair of socks that are disgusting. They're these marlin socks, dude. I don't know why, but they're so fishy.
You never wash them?
Oh no, of course I wash them, but I have to, if I'm going out and I'm serious, like I have to wear those socks. If they're missing,
Wow.
like I might not catch a fish. But no, I'm only halfway joking. But I don't believe in the banana thing. I don't take them out on boats because out of respect for somebody that does. But I don't believe in the banana thing. I'll eat a banana out there for sure. In fact, I'd love to. I just don't do it.
Wait, let's hear more about these socks. What's the origin story of these socks? How did they become lucky?
I actually got them from Guy Harvey, like the brand. They sent me a bunch of gear a few years back, just like through Instagram. They were like, "Hey, like we're gonna send you some stuff. Like, just have at it. Like, do some posts and stuff." I was like, "Sure." So they sent me a bunch of different stuff, and I had these socks, and they're these Marlin socks, and I thought they were pretty cool. So I just started wearing them. Like the first day I wear them, we had a sick day, topwater tuna feeds, like crazy stuff. Come back inshore, got a white Marlin, and I probably went out like the next day, probably maybe not even wash the socks. I don't know, but threw the socks back on. And then that was the one thing that like every single time I was going out and like having an incredible day, I was like, why are these socks like so fishy? So I just started wearing them and wearing them, wearing them. And now I can't lose them. Like they've got a couple holes in them. They're pretty disgusting, but like I have them. Like my wife, when I do the laundry, I'm like, don't touch those. She's like, yeah, I know. Like, I get it, you weirdo.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Great.
but those fishy socks, and I've worn them for the last 3 weeks, and we've been on the tuna pretty good. So
There you go. It
yeah,
sounds like you guys have been killing it, man. I want to see some of this footage of the hand feeding them behind the draggers. It sounds
yeah. So I can't really post anything like that. I just out of like I do a lot on the social media and stuff. Like you can go to my like thing and you'll see, but it's out of respect for the guy that's showing me how to do this. There's not a lot of
that's
people
Billy
that are
Hayes.
doing this. No. Billy Hayes and those guys. Those are the tuna junkies out of Jersey. I was
Oh,
saying when we do
who's
the
your mentor? What's his name?
his name is John Hour,
Oh, okay.
local dude in the Cape, and we're on a 38 Northern Bay, beautiful boat, and it's just me and him right now. And but he's brought me into this world, and he's shown me some things that would be not respectful to repeat because it's
Yeah.
years of knowledge, and I don't think a lot of other people know what what I've said gives nothing away or anything like that. But it's
Yeah.
just yeah, it's something that I kick it with a lot of tuna guys, and I don't think anyone. I know they're not doing what he's doing, and it's just interesting. There's a handful of guys that are, um, and yeah. So I'm not gonna post any of that stuff. Like I might do like I might take a video like you just said of like when they come up and slurp on the bait and stuff like that. But I would love to do one of the videos of like the whole process because they don't. I should say this too, dude. We're pulling up to these things and we're getting tight in 5 minutes, and the day's over once you kill the fish.
It's crazy.
Like it's not like we're out there for a few hours and soaking baits. Like it's like we pull up and we're getting business done, and then we're peeling off. Fight the fish for 45 minutes to an hour or something like that, and we got the heat on them, and then harpoon that thing hopefully and tie it off, and then we're going back home to sell the fish. And so I would love to get the whole process. I mean, my God, like, dude, that would be the craziest video. And there's some videos of like the dragger stuff going around right now, like on the interwebs that you can look at. And that's kind of what I'm explaining. But I couldn't post that out of like, I wouldn't want to upset him.
Yeah. One of my questions would be, how do you even find the draggers? How do you go about locating them?
Well, that's another thing too. You can either get lucky if you know your local waters, and not like I said, not every dragger has fish, and there's different draggers doing different things. But it's kind of in the know, and it's local knowledge. It's dudes who've been around each other for 20, 30, 40 years, and they've got their connections, and who's going out, and you're talking, and you got your tight little network of people, and that's a lot of these draggers they'll kind of go in incognito mode because they don't want the smoke. A lot of boats pulling up, as you can see on
Yeah, I bet.
on social media. People are pissing them off and hitting the boats, and all sorts of craziness is happening, and people yelling at each other. And these guys are trying to work, man. They're
Right.
sleeping, they're waking up, they're hauling back, they're working, and the last thing they want to do is deal with sport fishers and center consoles and all sorts of stuff like getting in their gear and blah blah blah. So
I bet.
it's a little bit incognito in that aspect, but you know and there's different draggers at different areas, and there's fleets on some of them, and there's nobody on some other ones, and then it's just a lot of it has to do with the local knowledge and guys that have worked together for a long time and things like that.
So it's not as simple
really
as just
cool.
pulling up to these things and setting up and catching a fish. I mean, you're making it sound that simple, but it seems like there's a lot more moving parts.
And I
that
should
go into
also
this.
I'm making myself sound like a hero. None of this is possible without my boss. Like, none of this is possible without his knowledge, and I'm only as good as I'm saying I am because he's taught me, and also because like, he's running the boat. I'm just on the rod, essentially,
Yeah.
So like all this stuff, like I'm no hero in that aspect. I've just gotten very lucky and pulled a lot of fish out of there. But I am making it sound easier than it is. A lot of people do struggle on those draggers. And I'm just very fortunate to be able to, like, I'm like, oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Right. So like my
Yeah.
first time out to the draggers, I'm like, oh, that's how it's done. And I see why people are failing and making mistakes and maybe get intimidated by it. But I'm just fortunate enough to where, like, somebody brought me out and we're like, this is how it's done. This is how you do it. It's like, boom. Okay. And that's a huge learning jump. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
For someone just going out and be like, I heard there's fish on draggers. Let's go figure that out. Well, you have to figure that out. Like anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I see why people fail now, and I understand it better. And it's all a huge education. Put it that way.
You feel like the guy you're fishing with, do you feel like he's still learning every time he goes out there?
Aren't we all?
I hope so.
I think everybody is, you could be doing this for 40 years and there's still new things you're going to see.
Yeah.
And different maybe ways to critique your this thing and this thing. And one of the coolest things I like about giant tuna is let's say you break a fish off or pull a hook or something, like, you're sitting there, or even after you land a fish, you're just telling these stories for like 15 minutes while you're trying to, like, get everything together. And you're like, oh man, like, I felt it do this and it head shake and I'm pretty sure it was tail wrapped. And like, that's why we lost it. And then like 10 minutes later, the other guy's like, yeah, I know, I saw the rod do this. And it's like this whole, like, it just totally messes with your mind. And then on the plus side, when you land one, you're like, oh, did you see it do this? And like, oh yeah, man, I felt it do this. And you're like, that was so sick. That it's just a cool process.
Yeah.
But I think we're always all learning. And I think anybody that says they're not, I don't know, maybe they got it figured out. I don't know.
I don't think I've interviewed anybody yet that says they're done learning, man. It's a constant thing.
Mm-hmm. You're done learning when you give it up.
Yeah, exactly. Saying that all I know is that now all I want to do is go tuna fishing right now. I'm like,
I love it.
Whose boat can I?
Well,
get
dude,
out
if
on
you're
next
ever,
weekend?
if you're ever, we're out of the Cape, so if you're ever down here, dude, I would hit up Riley. He's like part of the UVT crew.
Okay.
But it's dying breed sport fishing, dude. He'll put you on fish, dude. Fishy guy. There's him. There's like Cape Cod offshore. These are some of the guys I kick it with. That's Rob and Alex run the 23 and the 26 regulators. And there's Blake from Unreal Sport Fishing. Those guys are out there all the time. Of course, this dude Colin on a conch. Those guys are just like, they're all very young, but they're entering their OG status very, very quickly. Yeah. Very fishy characters.
You ever interact with any of the wicked tuna guys out there?
Yeah, my boss is friends with TJ, so
that's cool.
He was out at the draggers for a little bit too, but yeah, that's the only I just know TJ through him, but none of the other guys. See him out there sometimes, Those guys are always moving around, things like that.
I'm sure it's all relative, but how long of a ride is it to get to the draggers usually? Yeah,
relative to where they are. But we're only doing 18, 20 knots, things like that, but it could be 2-3 hours.
Oh, okay.
Things like that. But they're usually offshore. It's either going to be a scallop boat, it's going to be a squid boat, and that is depending on the time of year thing.
Okay.
So that kind of stuff.
Can someone book like a dragger charter? Is that like a thing that happens?
That's interesting.
Like if I wanted to come out and experience this, could I book a private charter to do it?
If somebody is, if one of the charter guys is like, that's the bite that they're on,
Yeah.
then you might get lucky. But I couldn't, if I was a charter guy and you were like, hey, I want to do a dragger bite, it would be very hard for me to fulfill that because like, I don't know when they're going to be on that boat and how long they're going to be and blah, blah, blah. If I'll tell you what, if you booked a dragger charter, if you wanted to go do that and you couldn't find any fish on draggers or like it wasn't happening, it would be the most boring day in the world. You'd be dropping baits behind a boat, potentially just catching sharks. Right. And you'll know if the tuna are there when you pull up. But so that's how that plays out. And like I said, I don't know a lot of people doing that. So that's another thing too. Right.
Yeah. So you could tell right when you pull up if the tuna are there. You'll see them right away.
Yeah, you'll mark them.
Yeah.
Well, you'll mark them.
You'll mark them. Okay.
You pull up and you'll mark them, and if they're hauling and they're chucking discard over the side, you'll see their sickles. Like they'll come ripping through there.
So cool.
And but they're usually down a little bit, and you chum them to get them higher and that kind of thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know if there's anybody doing chargers that are pulling up next to those.
It'd be cool, man. I would pay to do that. It looks. I've seen a few clips. There's one clip that keeps going around online where some guy's behind the dragger and he's throwing like a hauled dogfish out as bait.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think he gets smoked. I didn't see him land it, but I think he hooked up.
Yeah.
But it seems like when they're feeding right there, like you could probably throw anything at them. Like they're just. It's like
you could throw. I mean. Sometimes, some days they are picky though. Like some days I'm making it sound easier. Some days it is like they're there and you're throwing out, let's say mackerel. You're throwing out mackerel, you're chumming them on the mackerel and they're just not into it. And it's because whatever that dragger is like emptying out, like, or scooping up, like maybe they're more into that.
Yeah.
And then you find out maybe a few hours later, your buddy gets tight and he's like, yeah, it was on a XYZ, and you're like, okay, well, we don't have any of that bait. So you're trying to figure out how to make it work, right? So I like to go out there now with a bunch of different baits. I brought squid, butterfish, mackerel, scup, and some like eels and like weird stuff from over the season. And just to really get them a plethora, because just in case.
Yeah.
Whole buffet, just in case. Because they're scrap eating. But when they're picky, it can be a little bit tedious, and you just have to get them fired up. And it's funny too because they're synced up with that boat. Like they know when that boat's hauling, and when it's what it's doing. They know when the feed time turns on and things like that. And you can still get them. You can still trick them outside of that feed window, but they know when that boat's hauling. They've been following it around. That's mothership, like I said, and they're adapting to that, whatever that boat's doing. So it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is the actual act of selling the tuna after you catch them. How do you go? Like, what is the process with that? How does that all work?
Yeah. So I'll try to make it I talk a lot. I'll try to make it as quick as possible.
No, it's great, dude.
Love
it.
So start to finish. So once that fish is tail wrapped, we get it in the boat immediately, or I should say we swim it. We want to swim it to get the lactic acid out. Not everybody does this. I'm just going to walk you through the process that we do. And I really do have a respect for like all living creatures. I hunt, I fish, and I try to treat everything as best I can, right? It was a living creature. So we swim that fish. It's essentially pulling all the lactic acid and cooling that fish down because it was just in the fight of its life. And it's dead. It's got a harpoon in it, but they're still alive. So we swim them. Once we've swam them enough, then basically we'll drag it back to that point. We'll gill rake it, stick the harpoon in its gills, get it bleeding real good, and bleed it out. And at that point, we pull it onto the boat and remove the gill plate. We use a Sawzall, take off that gill plate, and right where its anal fin is, like it's this little butthole, you just kind of slice it open, and there's a little tendon inside of there. You just pop that tendon, and then you can rip out the entire innards out the gill plate that you Sawzalled and pull all the guts out and the stomach out. And now you've cored the fish. So you dump all that stuff over the side. It's all discard. Clean that out, pack it with ice, and we then plop the fish onto a fish bag that we laid out. a kill bag, cover that up, pour some more ice in there, get that thing nice and cold, make a little nice ice slurry. And that's another little tip that I've learned from fishing with really good guys is like you could put a fish on ice, that's great, but if you make this nice little like salt brine ice slurry, man, it just takes care of that fish. It looks beautiful when the truck arrives. It's just like you really are really keeping that thing cold and nice and brined up. All right, so then we get back, make a phone call when we get close enough to land, call one of the fish brokers, like Red's Best. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. There's Atlantic. And I think we're using Atlantic right now. And we call them. They meet us at the harbor, and we pull up next to them. They drop a winch crane down, and we load the fish up that way by its tail. I'm sure everyone knows that. And then it goes into the truck, and we submit our paperwork to the guy driving the truck. It's like all your federal and your state, and all that information for NOAA, and then give us a slip back, and then the fish gets sold. And it takes a while, but from once it's on that truck, we really don't know where that fish goes. It could be sold to Japan. It could be overnighted on a plane. It could be sold to a local market. It could be like it's bye-bye to that fish. And it takes a while to get paid too. That's the funny thing about it. It's like, don't hold your breath. It's a while before you get a paycheck for that fish. But
Really?
yeah. It's not like you're getting the paycheck right then and there or a week later.
What is
Like it takes a little bit.
Net 30 or something? 30 days, 60 days? What is it?
Yeah. We've gotten checks back 30 days later,
Wow.
longer. Yeah, it depends. I think we actually got a fish. It was like, when was it? It was like July, September. So one fish we sold in like beginning of July, like maybe like when the season kicked off a little bit. We didn't get a check last year till like October.
Wow.
And they sent it, and then we also got our harpoon back, which I thought was like funny.
Oh, really?
Because it was stuck in the fish. They they gave it back to us with the harpoon. It's funny.
That's great.
And the tip. But yeah, it could be a little bit of time before all that stuff is done. And yeah, then you go home and you submit all your paperwork to the government agencies and things like that. And but that's pretty much the start to finish. And as far as the monger side of things, like I don't know too much about that. Like once it goes to the warehouse, you could watch like videos on like how it's processed and where it goes and things like that. But I've never been involved in the merchant side of it and the selling of the tuna. But we all kind of have an idea of like what happens,
Yeah.
but I've never followed that fish and been like, oh, this fish went on a truck. It went to this warehouse where it's like chilled. And then from there it gets tagged and it goes to maybe it flies to Japan, or it goes to a local market or whatever, somewhere in the United States or overseas. But interesting, but you get all that back when you figure out, they tell you what it's sold for per pound and things like that.
What's the highest per pound you've ever heard for a fish that you had?
It's for the highest pound we got was years ago when it was good, and we got 17 a pound.
Wow.
Yeah, on a absolutely beautiful fish. And recently it's been like between 5 and 9.
Wow. That is a massive difference. Holy crap.
Yeah. And it varies, and it fluctuates. Like there's like the average of like, wait, what are guys getting right now? It's like, oh, $8 a pound. Cool. Okay. And then you'll hear of like a story of somebody gets like, crazy amount and, made some real money off one fish. And you're like, no way. And you're like, yeah, just that like gem. And usually I'm assuming that fish gets sent over to Japan and is hand selected by, yours truly, sushi chef.
Yeah.
For their millionaire donor, kind of thing.
Wow.
But yeah. And then I was actually watching a YouTube video recently on Nova Scotia fish in particular, and them getting sent to Japan. And apparently in the video, the sushi chef was saying like, when we can't find our local fish that are so high in fat content, then we go and pick these Nova Scotia fish out because they're cold water tuna that are very, very high in fat. And that's what they want for the toro and stuff like that. So I was just, it was a direct sushi market kind of video. And I was watching them use the samurai swords to cut up the tuna. It's pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah. But right now we're getting, I'm actually interested to see what all these fish we get for these fish. They were perfect. They were perfect. They had great fat on them. We killed them all within, relatively 40 minutes, which is You hear people fighting them for like 2-3 hours, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. But we were getting them all like high drag, smoking them, taking really good care of them. So I'm going to be interested to see what we get per pound. Hey, you can do all that and still get $3 a pound.
Wow.
But doesn't mean I'm still not going to do everything I can to make that fish go to market as best I can. But yeah, man. So it's interesting how all that stuff works.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to somebody who didn't really like understand it. And I was like, how like you go to like you want to buy a cow, you go to an auction and you can buy like a herd of cattle, you can buy one cattle, things like that. Like when you look at those cattle, like the price is set on like, for one cow or for like the whole herd, like the prices with tuna, it doesn't really work like that because each fish, it's a wild animal. So like, it's a very interesting market because each fish holds different fat. One fish might be sick. One fish, the meat quality could suck. It like whatever it is. It's a very, because it's a wild animal. It's a very interesting market, I guess. Because obviously in North America we can't sell game.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to me to think that it would only go for like $5 a pound for bluefin tuna. You would think.
Dude, it was really bad at one point. It was so bad we didn't even want to fish with them.
What? Why? Like what?
The market could be flooded. Dude, once again, we don't have enough time, so I'll just like broach this topic. There's politics involved in bluefin tuna.
Yeah.
Right. So with the whole commercial side of things, there's politics involved in that too, and like ICAT and stuff like that, and NOAA. So there's a whole realm of like, sometimes it gets to the point where it's like bluefin tuna is so bad priced that we're not even, why kill them? Like if you're going to get $2 a pound, $3 a pound, why? Like wait till the price goes up. If you're going to treat it like it's like a stock option, essentially, like why sell it low,
Right. Yeah.
It's going to go back up at some point, but then it gets into like, that's the care for the fishery and stuff. But I don't want to go too much in that because that's a whole nother side topic. But yeah, so when it's really bad, you'll hear captains and it's like, dude, the price of tuna is in the dumps. Like, almost better to take clients out and catch and release instead of killing this ancient fish that is basically going to get turned into cat food.
Does that happen often that it goes that low?
Yeah, and since I've started tuna fishing, yeah.
Wow.
For sure. Right now it's pretty good, but I can only speak for what we're getting and some of the friends that I know. It's not great, but it's pretty good. And there's some fish that you'll get more for and things like that. But then it's also, to get back to our topic about bait, it's also what they're feeding on, where they're feeding on, and like where the giants specifically are stationed. If they're in colder water and they're feeding on a fatty food source, you're going to get a better product. No question. Those fish are going to be healthier. They're angrier. They're fired up. They've got those fat stores, so they fight harder. If you're going after fish and they're like on a pogie school that's very lean, there's a lean fish. It's a skinny giant. And you get on the boat and you're like, it just doesn't look like as good as a product as like one of those blimps that comes from, Maine or Canada. That's like real fat, like you just see from the pictures and things like that. But right now, the fish that we are getting are very fat and look gorgeous. So, but we're also fishing in cold water, deeper.
Hey, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this week's show and thanks for listening. If you haven't already, join the Brooklyn Fishing Club and become part of our crew. Members get 20% off all shop purchases, expeditions, and fishing lessons, plus a free hat and t-shirt when you sign up. It's only $200 a year. Head to brooklynfishingclub.com and sign up today. Brooklyn Fishing Club, where New York City goes fishing. So now what's the plan now that it's closed? Do you run charters and do catch and release, or?
No. So the boat I'm on right now is private. He's been commercial fishing his whole life, but he owns a construction company, and I think he's just going to do some repairs on the boat, like not repairs, but just whatever. I have a family trip to the Outer Banks, so I'll be doing some like redfish down there.
Oh, nice.
I'm leaving like next week, and I'm going to be gone so tuna opens back up in October 1st. So I'm going to miss a few days of it. and then come back and jump back in. But it's going to be interesting too, because like it closed. So when it reopens, we're going to have to see what the quota is. Like how much is it going to be? 100 tons? Is it going to be 300 tons? Like, how much they give us to fish, because that could be over in a week.
Wow.
So it depends on how everything sets up in stages. And this is the best time of year to fish for 'em, man.
Yeah.
I wish I could be out there right now. It is, we went hard. So it is nice to have a few weeks off here.
I
Just
bet,
kind of
yeah.
like reset. I was getting to the point where I was coming home, a long day. I'd be coming home, and then I have a 2-year-old too. So I got to do the family thing. I'd get off the boat, come home, shower. I just get right into it. Be dad, be husband, and do all that energy, and then like maybe get 2 hours of sleep, which is really just like lay down, kiss the pillow, and like wake up, and then just get right back
Oh my
into
God, man.
it. And living off adrenaline and good feelings. And then
That's great.
do recycle, repeat. But there's days that are closed, and on those closed days, like I'm with my family. So it's like I'm not really resting with a 2-year-old. It's just nonstop. So a lot of fun, but so that's kind of how it's been. So it's nice to have a little reset. But my main thing is I do art. So I actually do like the Giyataku tuna prints and the mounts.
Oh, very
that's
cool.
like what I do right now. So I'm actually doing that all day today and yesterday and stuff. So that's like my what occupies most of my time when I'm not fishing.
So even when you're not fishing for tuna, you're still involved with tuna.
I'm always feeling up on a tuna tail, man. That's like, I got 30 going right now, and I'm always checking them out. I just think they're such a cool fish, and yeah.
That's great, man. Well, it was great talking to you. I'll circle back
too,
with
man.
you when the season opens back up in October. I'll reach back out. We'll see how it's going.
Yeah, for sure. Hoping those boats are still back out there, and we can do a whole repeat of this last month. So it'll be beautiful.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yep.
All right. Well, enjoy.
If I do, I'll get a video for you, but we gotta keep it low key though.
Yeah, I just want to see it. I wouldn't even post it. I'll just keep it for my private collection.
For sure. All right, my dude. It's been good talking to you. We'll catch up soon.
Definitely.
Thanks,
Don't you walk on me.